All right, so we are going to walk through DocuSign step by step this morning. So I'm going to jump right in. And as I'm going through here, like I said, ask me any questions. Let me know if I'm going too fast. You want me to show you anything again? So I'm going to start in command. And all of our transactions need to start with an opportunity. So I'm going to go to opportunities, which is the icon of the hands shaking. Now I've already created an opportunity because I want to really focus on DocuSign this morning. So I'm going to go to all opportunities just because that's where I like to go view my opportunities. And I can scroll down here and I can see this 1, 2, 3, 4 Main Street opportunity that I created this morning. So you see here, it has my market center, my opportunity name, and this I talk about in the Take to Command classes, but you really want to be specific in your opportunity name to make sure that it's the property address, your client's last name, and whether it's a listing or a buyer. And this is going to make sure that your MCA office is attaching all of the right documents and filling everything out correctly for the correct transaction. So once you have everything filled in here, you're going to go to the Documents tab. And you'll see here we have a list of documents here. All these are blank. And then in the top right-hand corner over here, it says Start a Transaction. I want to take a quick pause here because I want you to make sure that you know how important Start a Transaction is. You must click this button in Command to link Command to DocuSign. When you click Start a Transaction, it is going to open up a room in DocuSign. And it will link the two systems together, which will allow you to upload documents directly into Command from DocuSign. And that's going to be one of the main benefits of using DocuSign, because otherwise you'd have to download each document to your computer and then upload it into Command to submit for compliance review. So make sure you click Start a Transaction. If you have started a transaction already in .loop, you will not be able to switch that over to DocuSign halfway through the transaction. Additionally, if you start a room in DocuSign, you will not retroactively be able to connect that to an opportunity in Command. So you must click Start a Transaction in Command to make sure that the two systems are linked. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Start a Transaction. We'll give it a second to think, and then it's going to open up a new browser window with DocuSign. Now, if you have pop-up blockers on, it will not open up a new web browser window. So if you keep clicking Start a Transaction and you don't ever get to DocuSign, double check to see if maybe up here in your URL bar, if there's a little square that says there's a pop-up blocker on. So I'm going to click Sign In. So I'm going to sign in with the same information that I used to create my KW DocuSign account. And I'm going to click Login. And now it has dropped me into my new room in DocuSign. I'm going to try my best to not do a one-to-one comparison of .loop versus DocuSign because they are two very different e-signature platforms. But one parallel I do want to make here is that a room in DocuSign is going to be the same as a loop in .loop. So think of as a room as the room where you put everything, all of your documents regarding a specific transaction. So when you create this room in DocuSign, you'll see up here in the top left-hand corner, we have the name of the room, and it's going to be the same name as our opportunity in Command. So that's one way that you know the two systems are connected. And below here, you have an ID number. And we're not going to talk about this today, but the ID number will allow you to email documents directly into the room. So if you receive a binding document or something and you don't want to have to download it, you can just forward that email and use this ID number. I'll talk about that in another training, but I just want to point that out because I know that a lot of people did use that feature for .loop. So if this is your first time in DocuSign, you have to confirm your NRDS ID number. And this is your National Realtor ID number. And that's what DocuSign is going to use to verify that you have access to the GAR forms. If you do not confirm that NRDS ID, you will never be able to use our GAR contract forms. So since this is for this morning's training, I'm going to pretend like this is my first time in DocuSign. There are two ways in DocuSign that you can confirm your NRDS ID. Now, the first way is right here within the Documents tab of my DocuSign room. I can come up here to Add and click DocuSign Forms. And then you'll see I'm going to get this two logos. One, this pop-up window with two logos. One is going to be the Realtor logo, and one is going to be for the Northwest MLS. So I'm going to select Realtor because I need to confirm that I'm a member of the National Association of Realtors. So I'll select that Realtor logo. And now you'll see here we have our NRDS ID, and it's blank. Now, I've only met 2 agents that actually know their 9-digit NRDS ID. If you're like me, you don't know it, and you don't regularly use it. So right here below that field, it says Find Your NRDS ID. So you can click on this, and it will open up another browser tab, and we can select, or we can use our license number, last name, and email address to find what our NRDS ID number is. So I'm going to use my last name and my license number. So I'll just type that in, and then I'll click Submit. And here is my NRDS ID. So I'm just going to highlight that and copy it. And I'm going to close this tab because I don't need it anymore. And I'll come over here back into DocuSign, and I'm going to paste that NRDS ID number right there. I'm going to put my last name. One thing I want to point out, if you have had a name change since you joined the Georgia Association of Realtors, whether you got married or divorced or anything like that, you do need to make sure that the last name you put in here is the same last name that you have with the National Association of Realtors. Is if they do not match, the system will not confirm that you have access to the GAR forms. And then I'm going to select the association. So I'm going to select the Georgia Association of Realtors. So I am going to scroll down because the Georgia Association is, I guess it looks like it's like 15th from the bottom. So I'll select Georgia Association of Realtors, and then I'm going to click Validate. And now it'll say I have validated those 2 associations. And if this is truly your first time confirming your NRDS ID, you'll have another pop-up window now here, which will ask you to accept the terms and conditions of the Georgia Association of Realtors. And you would click Accept. The other way to confirm your NRDS ID is up in the top right-hand corner of DocuSign. You can click on either your image or your initials. Click on that circle there, and then select Preferences. And then in the menu on the left-hand side, we'll click on Integrations. And if you scroll down just a bit, you'll see here we have NRDS ID information. And if it were filled in, it would be blank here. And then to the right, where it says Clear for Me, it would show the Find Your Number. And you could click on that link and again, search using your last name, email address, and license number. And then you would fill in your last name and select Georgia Association of Realtors. And again, you would validate that membership. So that is one of the 2 ways that you can confirm your NRDS ID number. And you need to do that before you do anything else in DocuSign, but it only needs to be done the first time you log into DocuSign. Once you've confirmed it, you're good to go. Any questions about confirming your NRDS ID? All right. So I'm going to go back to where we just were. So I'm going to click on Dashboard, and I'm going to select the room that I just created, the 1234 Main Street. And I'm going to click into the Documents tab. So now I'm going to pick up right where we left off. So we created we started a transaction in Command. It dropped us off right here in our new room in DocuSign, and it's going to drop you off into the Documents tab. So you'll see here we have a Details tab, Documents, People, Envelopes, Messages, and History. The Documents tab is where you are going to add documents that you are going to use. But before you start filling in any documents, we need to go to the Details tab and fill in the information on the Details tab. So I'm going to click on Details, And this is where we're going to put in all of the information about the transaction and our clients that will be used to auto-populate those GAR forms. Now, in .loop, you could search the FMLS number and it would pull in all of the information from the listing. Unfortunately, DocuSign does not do that. So you do have to manually put in the information. But once you do it one time, it'll automatically load into all the forms. There's kind of two pieces of information on the Details tab. On the left-hand side of the page, it's going to be all the information about the transaction, the property, listing price, offer price, bid confirmation, all of that information. And then on the right-hand side, there's a narrow column that's going to have our client contact information. So for today's training, I'm doing a listing because I want to walk through how to do the disclosures. So you'll see here we have seller one, and this information with Tony Stark, his name, phone number, and his email address are already filled in because that was pulled directly out of command. So when you sync the two systems, that's another benefit, is that it will pull in that contact information. 9 times out of 10, it pulls it in, but always double check it, especially if you just added that contact to command and then immediately make a transaction, it probably won't pull that information over. So you'll see here we have our seller one. I'll scroll down, we have Pepper Potts, and here's her information, which is just my personal email. And then you'll scroll down, then we have the listing agent information, which is me, and it's going to pull in most of this information. I will need to go through and edit it. And then below here, we have listing agent 2. So if I had a co-op agent or a co-listing agent. And then below here, we have buyer 1. So if you are representing the buyer in this transaction, you would leave the seller information blank, and you would scroll down to buyer 1, and you would fill in your client's information here. And then buyer 2, and then yourself as the buyer's agent. And then if you have a co-buying agent. The reason I point this out is because, well, there's 2 reasons. One, it's going to auto-populate all of those fields on the GAR forms and will have your client's name in it. But then also, when we go to send these documents out for signature, we need to make sure that we have our clients in as either seller 1, seller 2, or buyer 1, buyer 2, because all of the permissions for them to sign and fill in specific fields will be mapped to their role here on the Details tab. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to edit this information, and I'll show you how to do that before we start adding documents. So I'm going to click Edit in the top right-hand corner. And now you'll see all the fields are editable. So we could change the name here if we wanted to. I like the name because it matches the same as my name of the opportunity in command. And now let's kind of start at the top and work our way down is usually the simplest way for me. So local currency, US dollars, MLS ID. Fill in as much of the information that you have that you can fill in as much of the information that you have at that moment in the transaction, knowing that as you go through the transaction, you can always add or edit any of the information. So origin of the lead, not really necessary for this. Location, so I'll just type in 1234 Main Street, Atlanta, County Fulton. We'll do state, Georgia, postal code 30342. Property type, we'll do single family detached. Year built, we'll do 2000. Any special circumstances? Nope. Listing date, we'll select today's date, so 9/18. Expiration date, 9/18. Original listing amount, do 415. Current listing amount, 415, 415, and 415. We'll scroll down. Offer details. We're just about to list this house, so we don't have any offer details yet, so it doesn't matter. We don't have any highest bid, no closing details. And here we have some additional information. List side commission, we can fill this in. Like I always said, fill in as much information that you have because it'll just make it a little bit easier when you're filling in the documents. And then property details, I'm not going to fill that in right now. I don't need it.
You will need this information for the buyer also, right? I mean, this is where it's going to come from for the purchase and sell agreement.
Yeah, so if you are on the buy side and you're filling in this information, you would put in all the information about the property you're about to write an offer on.
Yeah, so it's the same concept. So whether it's listing or purchase, it's all of this has to go in there because the forms are going to be deriving it from these fields.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So now that I've filled in all the information about the listing, I'm going to come over and I'm going to double check the contact information for my clients and myself. So we have seller one, we have Tony Stark, cell phone number, and email address. At the very minimum, you need to have your client's name and email address in the system, because they need to have the email address so you can send these documents for signature. If you don't have their email, it won't let you send it to them to sign. So make sure you have that in here. So I'll scroll down. Seller two, we have Pepper Potts, and then here's her email address. And then I'm gonna scroll down. Here we go, listing agent, myself, phone number, my email address. Let me just finish filling this in. Atlanta, country, United States, Georgia, 30342. One thing I want to point out really quickly too. So here where it says company, you can see it says Keller Williams Realty First Atlanta. That's based on what the name of the brokerage is. So if you're with First Atlanta, I would recommend that you just that you delete Realty. So it just says Keller Williams First Atlanta. And if you are with the Atlanta Perimeter office, I recommend that you type in KW Atlanta Perimeter. And the reason I recommend this is because there are certain fields on these documents where our brokerage name will be listed. And if you have Keller Williams Realty First Atlanta or Keller Williams Realty Atlanta Perimeter, it's too long and it'll cover up some of the text. So we have permission from Lynn to use the shortened version of the office names. Not a big deal. You could always edit it later if you want to, but just wanted to point that out here. So I have all of my information down here. Listing agent two, I don't have one. Now, you may think to yourself, oh, I could go in and I could fill in the buyer's information or the co-op side information. You can, but one thing I want to stress, and I'll point this out again later, is my recommendation is to never send a document for signature to a co-op agent out of DocuSign, especially if you're still negotiating, because they likely won't sign that document, and then you will not have a signed document in DocuSign. DocuSign is different, whereas everybody must sign the document that you've added signatures for before it's considered complete. Whereas in .loop, you could save a document that has one or two signatures on it. So while it may be tempting to fill in this information, I would recommend that you leave most of it blank here. So that way you're not tempted or accidentally send documents to co-op agents. So I have completed filling in all the information here. And I'm going to click Save in the bottom right-hand corner. The room has been updated. Any questions about filling in the information on the Details tab?
I got a question about you saying not sending documents to the co-oping agent, and maybe you'll get to this. So right now, I'm understanding this to be that if I'm representing the two buyers, then I will route it to them for their signatures and my signature. And then are we going to download it as a PDF and then send it to the co-op?
Yeah, correct.
All right, thank you.
Yep. So, and we'll talk through that more when we get to envelopes, but yeah, that's correct. So now that we filled in the Details tab, now we can go to the Documents tab and we can start adding our GAR forms. So you can click Upload Documents here if you need to upload any, but I'm going to click on Add in the top right-hand corner, and then I'm going to select DocuSign Forms. Now, here's where things get a little bit different depending on which office you're in. So if you were in the First Atlanta office, you'll leave this as DocuSign Forms Library, and then we'll select the library, and we'll come down here and select the Georgia Association of Realtors. If you are with the Atlanta Perimeter office, Stacy has already gone through and created groups for you. So you can select the DocuSign Forms group. And if you come here, it would show you the different groups of documents. So you'd have buyer's group, listing, commercial, land, all those different groups. I'm not with the Atlanta Permanent Office, so I'm going to go to library, and then I'm going to select the Georgia Association of Realtors. So it pulls up all the documents, all the GAR forms, and I think there's about 180 of them. And I'm going to start adding these to the room. So first and foremost, I'm going to look up the exclusive seller listing agreement. So to start typing the name of it. And usually there's going to be a couple options. So be very mindful that you're selecting the right one. I've caught myself a couple of times adding a commercial version of a document or the condo version. So I'm going to use the exclusive seller listing agreement. I would also recommend that you start to memorize or learn the form numbers. So like this is F101. And that'll also be another way that you should be really quickly add these documents to your room. So I have my seller's listing agreement. Then I'm gonna need the seller's property disclosure. So I'll come here, search the, we have F301. So we'll add that. And then I also want to walk through the purchase and sale agreement, since that will probably be one of the most single important documents that you use in your real estate career. Now I understand that traditionally on the listing side, I wouldn't be the one to create the purchase and sale agreement, but I do just want to walk through it with you today. So I'm going to add that, and that is the F201. So you can just type in the form number there and select that. And then you'll see here, and I have 3 forms selected. Oh, I need to add the community association disclosure. So let me type that in, community association disclosure right here. So now I have 4 forms selected. So I know that I'll be adding 4 forms to the room. So I'm going to click add, and the page will reload. And you'll see here, all 4 of these forms have been added to the room. Whenever you add a document, to the room, either through the DocuSign forms, or you upload a document, or a document has been completed for signature, it will default into the room docs folder. Now we can create our own folders. In .loop, we had to have a certain folder format for compliance review. In DocuSign, you can organize your room any which way that you want. Lynn and Alita do not look at your DocuSign room. They only look at the forms that are uploaded into Command. So you can set this up any way you want to. So it can be super organized or super messy, whatever works best for you. But if you want, yes?
I'm sorry, I tried to interrupt you like a tab or two back. Is there a reason that we don't have the library so this populates? I'm a new agent. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm supposed to know which documents are for which transaction.
So you'll start to learn, which ones you need for which side of the transaction. And Alita runs contract classes every Monday morning. She goes through each one of the forms. So I recommend joining that. And then also your mentor will be able to help you select which documents you need.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And the reason First Atlanta hasn't set up the groups yet is because we want to make sure everyone is fully comfortable with the system and using DocuSign and how to find documents, because there may be some documents that are not added in the group. And so we don't want agents to not know how to find them. But we do plan on adding the groups to DocuSign at some point. So I have all 4 documents here, and I want to organize them because I want to have my listing agreement forms in one folder and then my purchase and sale agreement in another. If you want to create a folder, come up here to Actions, click on Actions, and then select Add Folder. And then we'll give this folder a name. So I'll just select Listing Agreement and then click Create. Now, like I said, all of the documents will default into the Room Docs folder, so we have to move those documents into the Listing Agreement folder. And there's 2 ways to do that. The first is to, if you roll your mouse over the document, a circle, excuse me, a circle will appear in the top left-hand corner, and you can check that. And then whenever you select a document, this toolbar will appear. It has a bunch of different actions, and you can roll your mouse over it and find the right ones you want. And so I'm going to select the Move tab, the move icon. So it asks me to select a destination. I'll say folder in current room. Then I'll select the listing agreement folder and then click move. And the page will reload. And now my community association disclosure is in my listing agreement folder. So that's one way. The other way is you can roll your mouse over the document, click on it, hold your mouse down, and then drag it into the folder that you want. And it's that easy. So I'll drag my property disclosure up there. So now I have all three documents that are related to my listing agreement in my listing agreement folder. One thing I want to point out here is that you'll notice I haven't added my affiliated marketing or wire fraud prevention disclosures here. So at First Atlanta, we have those documents in templates because there aren't any form or any fields for us to fill in. We add those in the envelope because they just need to be signed. If you are with Atlanta Perimeter, you can add those documents into your room here in the Documents tab. Any questions on adding documents or organizing them before we jump into filling them in? All right. So now we're going to start working in the documents. So I'm going to start with the listing agreement. So I'll click on that. Just click on it and it will open up. Perfect. And with everything, whether it's a DocuSign or Command, I always recommend you to start at the top and then we'll work our way down and go through each one of the fields at a time. So you'll see here, we have our property ID, our address, and this information is filled in directly from the Details tab. Now we do need to go in and fill in any missing information. So for the tax ID number, I would get that out of Realist or from the tax record. So I'm just going to put a fake number in there now. And then legal description, we will attach as an exhibit here too. So we'll make sure we work with one of our affiliated closing attorneys to ask them for the limited warranty deed. So we'll select that. And we'll come down to listing period. We'll type in the address. So we'll do September, today is 18th, 2020. Now, there is not a calendar feature in DocuSign like there is in .loop. So you do have to manually put in the address. And one member of the ALC recommended typing in the actual address. And I've been doing that ever since because I do think it's great. It makes it very clear so there's no confusion, since sometimes numbers can be in the wrong way, people read them incorrectly, and they are more likely to be able to be edited. So we'll do this listing agreement for 1 month. So we'll do October 18, 2020. And you see it's super easy. You just type in the information in the fields, very similar to .loop. Broker's duties list price, we have $4.15. I want to point out that for whatever reason, this field for list price doesn't let you add commas. So you could type a comma in there, but then when you save the document, it's going to remove it. Just be mindful of it. You didn't do anything wrong. It's good to go. We'll do negotiation. Seller does authorize to assist in negotiating, marketing. Another thing I want to point out with today's training. This training is on how to use DocuSign and how to fill in the fields and send everything for signature. It is not a training on what the actual content to fill in is. Please refer to Lynn and Alita and our closing attorney partners for what the correct information is to fill in here, because I'm just going to use a lot of abbreviations and simplifications for time. So for negotiation, I'll just put in FMLS, GAMLS, and KWLS. Ooh. All right, and then commission, we'll do seller agrees to pay the closing broker. I negotiated 6%, and we will agree to pay the co-op agent 3%. Protected period, 90 days. Select independent contractor. So you see, it's just really easy. Just go down and click everything. So I'll click, we do not offer dual agency or sub agency. And then we'll just continue down. No special circumstances. Just want to scroll through the document, see what fields are. And as you get more comfortable with the documents, you'll know exactly where you need to fill in information versus not. And then we have our brochure. So we'll want to include a couple brochures, and all of the brochures are uploaded into DocuSign. So we'll do the ABCs of agency. We don't need to worry about lead-based paint because this is built in 2000, mold, radon, and protect yourself when selling a home. So just select all the brochures you want to send them. And then we have our legal description exhibit. So we'll make that exhibit A. And then if you have any special stipulations, you can just type in any special stipulation that you would like to include. You certainly don't have to put any special stipulations, but if you want to, I know some agents that have the same stipulations that they use for every listing agreement or buyer brokerage agreement. You just paste those in here as well. Now this field is limited, so if you need more stipulations, please use the additional special stipulations page and you can check that box there. So scrolling down, you'll see it's filled in our clients' names and email addresses perfectly, and then we'll scroll down to my information. It's filled in most of the information, but not everything, so I do need to fill in the rest of these fields. A lot of agents have asked if there will be a way that DocuSign can automatically fill in all of these fields since this information will remain constant on every document. We're looking into figure out how they can do that. So for now, we'll just fill in the information. So MLS office code, KWFA01, brokerage license number H33313, fax number, and just fill in all of those fields. The more information you can fill in, the less likely you are to get any feedback from Lynn or Alita. 531-5708, Georgia license number, and I'm a member of the Atlanta board. So fill it in. Everything looks like we're good to go. So once you're done, click Save and Close. In .loop, you would sign or have add signature fields directly in the document. In DocuSign, we do all the signature fields in the envelopes. So I want to point that out because I've gotten a couple agents being like, oh, hey, I'm trying to sign it. It's not letting me sign it. You don't sign in the Documents tab. So the next document we are going to fill in is the seller's property disclosure. And this is a very important document to be included with your listing. So I want to point something out here. Excuse me. You'll see here we can edit this box here for exhibit, but we don't know what exhibit this will be. And it's filled in our property address. We don't have an offer date, but all that information looks good coming in from the details tab. And then scrolling down, there aren't any fields here. There's no check boxes. There's nothing here. I can't fill in any information. I can't edit anything. That is on purpose. The disclosures in DocuSign, all of the fields for the information to be filled in are mapped to seller one. Us as agents are not allowed to fill this information in. We do not want to be responsible or liable for any of the information. So we do not have the ability to edit those fields. Only seller one can fill in that information. So we just want to make sure that the property address here is correct. Just do a quick scroll to make sure that there aren't any missing fields that we do need to fill in, which on the disclosure, there should not be any. And then we'll scroll down and we'll see we have our clients' names and good to go. I will show you in the envelope how all those fields are mapped to seller one. So once we double check that, click Save and Close. And now we'll do the same thing for the community association disclosure. So we'll click on that to open it up. And again, we'll double check, make sure that it pulled in the information correct for the address. We don't have an offer date. And again, with the same thing as the seller's property disclosure, all of these fields and checkboxes are blank. We do not have the ability to edit or add any information to this document. Only seller one is able to fill in this information.
Can you, now that you've saved all of this, what if you have a whoops? Now you need to go back and add a signature line for somebody. Can you open it back up?
So we haven't added signatures yet.
Okay, so generally speaking, so if you needed to go back because you typed the address or something wrong, can you go back in and correct it still?
Yes, and I can show you how to do that in just a moment. So,
Okay, all right, thanks.
yep. So we're just double checking our community association disclosure and make sure everything here is good to go. Nothing we need to add, so I'll click Save and Close. So as Tim asked, let's say I was like, oh crap, I just filled in the address wrong. What I'm going to do? Well, there's two ways that you can edit the address. One is you can go back to the Details tab and you can edit the address there. The other way you can edit the address is you can just open up the listing agreement again. And Tim, this is a great question because I love what I'm about to show you. Let's say the property address is 1235 Main Street. So I can edit the field there to update to 1235 Main Street. Now, when you update a field, a pre-populated field, if you update or delete any of the information in a pre-populated field on one of the forms, it will update or delete that information off the Details tab. So I have updated the property address line here. When I click Save and Close, that's going to save the property address on the Details tab to 1235 Main Street. That will then subsequently update the property address on the other GAR forms. So be mindful before you make any edits to documents that any of these fields that are mapped to the Details tab will update everything on all the other documents as well. So I'll click yes.
Is that specific to just this form, or any other form will do the same for the Details tab?
Any other form would do the same.
Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes it's helpful, like for this, I'm like, oh, I put in the property address incorrectly. I can just update it here and it'll update the Details tab and everything else. Other times you're just playing around, you make an update and you're like, oh no, that just updated everything. So be mindful because it can, two sides of the same coin. So I've updated the property address. I'll click Save and Close. So we'll give that a second to save because what it's doing is uploading and updating that Details tab. And I'll just open up the seller's property disclosure really quickly to show you that it should update the property address. See, now it says 1235 Main Street. So small change. I know it's just one number, but you'll see now all of the other GAR forms are updated accordingly. So I'll click Save and Close. So we filled in all the information for our listing agreements and disclosures. Now I want to walk through the purchase and sale agreement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up. Very similar to what we did for the listing agreement. We'll just start at the top and we'll work our way down and fill in all the information. All right, so we'll start here with the offer date. So I'll type in September 18, 2020. We'll do our property address, 1235 Main Street, MLS number that pulled in. I'll add the tax ID number. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, 2. Our legal description, we'll attach it as an exhibit here too. Or if you don't have it and you're like me, you can I always like to use deed book and page as my second option. So you can type in that number there. And then we'll do purchase price of the property paid by buyer. So let's do 405. I'll try to type in, see if you type in a comma, it says invalid number. So we'll do 405. Seller's contribution to closing costs. Let's do 5,000. Now for whatever reason, this number field allows you to add a comma. It is what it is. Closing date shall be, we'll do October 12th, 2020. Possession will be at closing. Holder of the earnest money, KWFA. Closing attorney, Campbell and Brannon. And if you notice, I'm just tabbing through. You can click the tab button and tab through each one of the fields. It's very simple. And then earnest money will be a check and we'll do $4,050. We'll do 1% within 3 days of binding. So it's that simple. You just kind of go through and fill in all the fields. And as you get more comfortable with the documents, you'll know exactly which fields you need to be looking for to fill in information. Lead-based paint was not attached because it was not built prior to 1978. And then you see here, it shows listing broker is Keller Williams First Atlanta. This is what I was mentioning before when we were updating the details tab, that if you have Keller Williams Realty First Atlanta or Keller Williams Realty Atlanta Perimeter, the name would go all the way over here and cover up the fields. So you could leave that here. Just says KW Atlanta Perimeter or Keller Williams First Atlanta. And I'm going to select representing seller as client. And then I can come over here to selling broker, and we'll just use Harry Norman, today's example. And Harry Norman is representing their buyer as a client. Very simple. Come down here, material relationships, none that I know of. And we'll give this until 12 p.m. on September 19th, 2020. So we'll give them a full day to review and respond. So I'll just continue going down the purchase and sale agreement and filling in the information as needed. So keep scrolling, and we're scrolling. Still scrolling. All right, oops, excuse me. So now we have our exhibits. So we are going to select our seller's property disclosure exhibit. We'll make this exhibit A. And then we have our community association disclosure. We'll make that exhibit B. And then any other disclosures, you would select your financing exhibit. If you did the legal description, temporary occupancy, the sale or lease, buyer's contingency, select all of them and then give them the letter for which exhibit they will be. And then we'll scroll down to special stipulations here. And again, we'll just type in your stipulations here. You can add more, lots more, even more. One thing I want to point out is that the size of this text box is the size of the stipulations that you're able to add here on this screen. I know some agents that have a lot of stipulations that they use on every single purchase and sale agreement, and that's fine. We have two options for how we can get around this limited space. The first, and probably the most simple, is to use the additional special stipulations page. That way you'd have a full page of additional stipulations that you can paste in there. The other option is in the envelope, we're able to add text boxes. So we can add a text box that will then fill up the rest of the space on this page. And we can edit the size of the font so we can fit more text in that box. Now, it's not going to make you a fan favorite amongst your co-op agent or closing attorney with small font, but it'll do the job of getting all of your stipulations on this page. And I'll walk through that in just a moment in the envelope. So we've added all of our stipulations there, and then we'll scroll down and we'll see it has our client's name and email address, co-buyer or co-seller, and email address. I want to point out here, for myself and my business, I don't like to share my client's contact information with my co-op agent at all. 9 times out of 10, that co-op agent is going to be very respectful of my relationship with my clients, but you always have that chance that the co-op agent will go directly to your clients, try to negotiate or do something unethical. I like to avoid that. I don't want any opportunity for it. So in .loop, I would have deleted my client's email address here. But as I mentioned earlier, anytime you update or delete information from a pre-mapped or pre-tagged field, it will delete that information from the details tab. So if I were to delete my client's email address here off the purchase and sale agreement, it would delete my client's email address off the details tab. And then when I go to send this document out for signature, there wouldn't be any email address to mail it to. So leave your client's email address in the purchase and sale agreement And I will show you in the envelope how we can hide their email address so the co-op agent doesn't have it. I just wanted to point that out because I don't want you to delete the email, because that will throw a big wrench into our plans for sending these out for signature. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to finish filling in the information for myself. So my license number, fax number, membership, Atlanta, fax number, MLS office code, license number. Now, if you wanted to, you could fill in all the information for your co-op agent. That actually might be beneficial. I always, when I'm submitting an offer, I always try to make the least amount of work for that agent. Even though it's something small like filling in his or her information, I can grab that out of FMLS and fill it in here. And while I wouldn't send it to them for signature out of DocuSign, at least it would be less fields that they would have to fill in. Anything that I can do to help my client's offer stand out. So you could fill that in here if you wanted to, and you'd be good to go. So now we filled in the purchase and sale agreement. I'm going to click Save and Close. You can either click at the bottom here or on the top, click Save and Close. All right, so now all of our documents have been updated, and our next step is going to be to send these out for signature. But before we do that, I wanted to stop and see if there are any questions about filling in the documents, any of the fields, anything you'd like to see again or clarify on. All right. So now that we filled in all of our documents.
Sorry, I do have a question. Maybe it'll come up later. What if there's a situation where we're going to need to import a PDF and continue with a document that already exists?
So if you were going to be importing a PDF, you can come up here to Add, click Add, select Computer, and then I'll just, here's a PDF. It's just the Ignite flyer that I created. So I'll just click Open. It's going to add that document here into the Room Docs folder, and then here is the document. Well, I guess it's taking a second to load. But you'll notice that because this is a PDF, there are no fields on here that I can edit. You can't add any text fields here in the Documents tab. We would do all of that in the envelope.
Okay, so if this was, so that was a brochure. So if it was a previous form that someone else sent to me and I needed to update the form fields, is that also where we'll be going into the envelope to make those changes?
That's correct. And I'll show you how to add fields.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So now that we have all of our documents, they've been updated, we've added this PDF here, which could be whatever we need. There are two ways that you can create an envelope. The first way is if you roll your mouse over the document and you click on the circle in the top left-hand corner, you select all the documents that you want to use to create an envelope. So I'll select all of these here. And the toolbar appears, and you can roll your mouse over the different icons until you find the icon that says DocuSign. You can click on DocuSign, and that's going to create a new envelope with all these documents attached. So that's option number one. The next option is the little bit more manual option. So I'm going to click on Envelopes. I'll click on New in the top right-hand corner. And now I'm going to create an envelope. So like I've said, with everything that we do in DocuSign and Command, we'll start at the top and we'll work our way down, adding and filling in the information. So we'll give this envelope a name. The envelope name is for your naming convention only. It's so that way it can help organize all the different envelopes that you send. Throughout a transaction, you're going to send 10, 20, 30, 50, maybe 100 envelopes, depending on the amount of documents you have to send for signature. There's no limit on the number of envelopes you can send, so don't worry about that. But you do want to name them something that you can keep track of, because there may be a time that you have to go reference, oh, when was that document signed? Did that client ever open it? All that information. So I'm going to name this 123 Main Street, and I'm just going to do exclusive listing agreement and purchase and sale agreement. So now that we have the name for it, now we need to start adding documents to the envelope. So there's three different ways that we can add documents. First, we can select room docs, and that's going to add documents from the room, so the documents tab that we were just in. The next is use a template. So if you've created a template for yourself, or the office has a template for you, like at First Atlanta, we use the wire fraud and affiliated marketing disclosures, our template, or you have more. So if you wanted to upload a document or a PDF directly into the envelope, you can do that here as well. So I'm going to click on Room Docs, and then I'm going to select all of the GAR forms. Now, when you're first starting to work in your room, it's only going to show a handful of documents, but as you're going further through a transaction, it's going to show every single document that you have in that room, including the signed documents. So you do want to be careful and mindful that you're selecting the correct documents that you want to send for signature. So I'll click Add Selected, and it's going to add those documents to the envelope. So now I just have all of my forms, so you can see the form logo. And now we need to add the affiliated marketing and wire fraud disclosures. So I'm going to click on Use a Template. And then over here on the left-hand side, I'm going to click Shared with Me. And the Shared with Me folder is going to be all of the documents that the MCA office have shared with me that I can use for my transactions. So we'll give that a second to load. And you'll see here all the documents and all the shared templates that you might need. So I'll scroll down, and you'll see here we have affiliated marketing and wire fraud, but it's a buyer version. And I'm going to scroll down, and I'll see I have a seller version of the affiliated marketing and wire fraud. You need to make sure that you select the correct version of these documents, because the signature fields are mapped according to which side of the transaction you're working on. So in the Details tab, I have Seller 1 and Seller 2 filled in. So the signature fields here on the disclosures will be mapped to Seller 1 and Seller 2. If I select the buyer version, there won't be anywhere for my clients to sign. So now that I've selected the disclosures, I'll click Add Selected. Perfect. So now you can see I have all 6 documents here, but they are listed in alphabetical order based on when they were added. I want to put these into a specific order because I want my clients to sign a listing agreement, then the disclosures before signing the purchase and sale. If you want to reorder the documents, you have to do it here at this stage of the envelope. You will not be able to edit the order of these documents when we go to the next stage and start adding signature fields. So what you're going to do is just roll your mouse over the document, click on it, hold your mouse down, and then drag it into the position that you want. So we'll start with our exclusive seller listing agreement. Then I want to go with my seller's property disclosure because that's Exhibit A. Then I have my community association disclosure. Then we can go to wire fraud prevention. Then my affiliated marketing, and then purchase and sale. So this is the order that I want my documents to be signed in. So now that we're all good with our documents, we'll continue to scroll down. And now we're going to add recipients to the envelope. To add recipients, click on the Add Recipient button and then the drop down. And we're going to select pre-tagged roles. And I want to reiterate the importance of selecting pre-tagged roles. 9 out of 10 mistakes that I hear from agents is that they do not select the pre-tagged roles, and they're then spending 30 minutes adding signature fields to their documents. All of these documents have signature fields added to them, but you must select pre-tagged roles because that is what's going to connect your client's information from the Details tab to the specific places on the GAR forms that they need to sign. If you do not select pre-tagged roles, there will not be anywhere for your clients to sign. It may logically make sense, like, oh, I'll add room participants, but room participants will not assign signature fields. So always select pre-tagged roles. Always select pre-tagged roles. So I'm going to click pre-tagged roles, and this window is going to pop up, and it's going to show me a list of all of the different fields that have a potential signature field on it. All the documents here that have all of the documents in which this role has a signature. And then over here is going to be on the left-hand side where we can add the client's name for each one of those fields. So we'll select here for seller 1. I'm going to scroll down and select Tony Stark. And then I'll come over here to seller 2, and I'm going to select Pepper Potts. And then for listing agent, I'm going to select myself. Now you'll be in here twice, one as the room owner, and then one's also as the listing agent that you've added yourself on the details tab. It doesn't matter which one you use, it's the same. So I'll select myself. And here's where I was saying earlier, you may be tempted to want to fill in the buyer's agent name or buyer 1 or 2 or the co-op side. Don't add any co-op agent or client information here, because that's what will ultimately affect the ability for this document to be a completed signed document. So now that I've selected seller 1, seller 2, and listing agent pre-tagged roles, I'll click Add Selected. And it's going to load each one of those names. Give that a second. All right, so there's a bit of information here with each one of these pre-tagged roles, and we're going to walk through it all together. On the left-hand side, you can see here we have these boxes with the number 1 in them. That's the signing order. So right now, each signer will have the ability to sign at the same time. However, there may be a time when you need to put in a specific order. Maybe your clients have said, hey, I would like this person to sign first and then myself and then you. Or for today's example, because the sellers will be filling in the seller's property disclosure, I want seller 1 to fill in the information on the seller's property disclosure before seller 2 can review it and sign it. That way it can be seller 2 can do a double check and make sure all the information is correct. So if you want to update the signature order, I can just put my mouse in the box and then update the number, and then the system will update it. So right now, Tony and myself will sign first, and then Pepper, but I want to make myself the last signer. Now, every agent has their own preference if they want to be the first signer or the last signer. One of the benefits of being the last signer is that you're able to make documents binding. It'll just save you a step of having to go through and add those binding dates to the documents, specifically for today's example, the listing agreement. So I've put everything in the correct order. We have our name and email address. They must have an email address here. And then to the right of that, we see it says needs to sign with a drop-down arrow. This is all of the different permissions that each client will have. It's going to default to needs to sign, but you can have it to needs to view, receives a copy, or specify recipient.
Nick, you've got them ordered as 1, 2, 3. Do I do 1, 1, 1 if I want everybody to sign at the same time?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it will always default to 1, 1, 1. You'd have to go through and manually update a specific order.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. So you can select the different permissions here. So if they just need to view the document, they don't have to sign it, that's fine. Or if they want to receive a copy, receives a copy most commonly would be used for if your contract is about to go binding, and once everyone signs here, it's going to be a binding document. You can then add your closing attorney or your lender here, and they can receive a copy of it. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend that unless you have a very close relationship with those partners, because there won't be any context for those documents, but it is an option. And then to the right here, we have a more dropdown, and we have 2 options here. We have add access authentication and add a private message. If you have a client that is worrisome about e-signature, you can add an access authentication code for another added layer of security. So if you click on this, you'll be able to add an access code here. So I can put in any code that I want. I'll just type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then that way I can say, hey, Tony, before you go to sign these documents, you're gonna have to add this, you're gonna have to fill in a code, and that code is 12345. And only you know that code. So in the event that your computer gets hacked, you don't have to worry about any rogue people going through and signing and buying homes on your behalf that you don't know about. You have to fill in this code. Now, I don't want to actually use that today, so I'll click discard. And then the other option is add a private message. So if you want to send a note specifically to just one person, you would click add a private message. And I want to do that today for Tony. And I'm going to say, hi, Tony, please remember to fill in all of the information for the disclosures. Thank you, Nick. Now, only Tony will receive this message. Because seller one is the one that fills in the fields for the property disclosure and the community association disclosure, I wanted to remind him that he needs to fill that in, just so he doesn't just sign it and not fill anything in. So now I have all of my recipients set up. I've added my pre-tagged roles. I've put them in a specific signing order, and I've added a private message just for Tony. Any questions about adding the pre-tagged roles? All right, so we'll keep scrolling down the page. And our last option here, our last item to do here is to send a message to the recipients. So your email subject will default to please DocuSign. I recommend that you leave that in there just in that way your clients know that they have an action that they need to take from DocuSign. So I'll click please DocuSign, and then I'm gonna do 12345 Main Street, exclusive listing agreement, and purchase and sale. So that way they know which documents they need to sign. And I imagine at this point in the conversation, you've let them know, hey, I'm sending over these documents. They're going to be in your inbox by 12:30 today. And then I can write a little email message that says, hi, Tony and Pepper, please review and sign the documents for 12345 Main Street. Thank you, Nick. So just put in a quick message there, just that way they know it's from you. It's a real document that they need to sign. It's not going to be some virus. So once we have gone through, we've given our envelope a name. We've added documents and templates to the envelope. We've added our pre-tagged roles and put them in a specific order. And we've written a message to our clients. We now can click the next button in the top right-hand corner. And this is going to take us to the envelope editor. And this is where we're going to add signature fields. Make sure that all the signature fields that are already added are good to go, and add in any potentially missing information that we overlooked. Now the editor, there's a lot of information here, so let's kind of walk through the layout before we actually walk through any of the documents. So up here in the top left-hand corner, you can see it says Tony Stark and it has a yellow circle next to it. There's a drop-down menu here with each one of the recipients' names and a different color. This is to help you determine or see which fields are assigned to which signer. So if I have Tony, you can see all these options here are yellow. If I select Pepper, everything turns blue. And if I select myself, everything turns purple. Now, I want to point out here that the color doesn't matter. So if you're going through a transaction, you may be purple on one transaction, you may be blue on another, and yellow on the other. It doesn't matter. You just want to make sure that all of the same person's signature fields are all mapped to the same color. So I'm going to go back to Tony here. And then below that, you'll see we have all these standard fields. So if you need to add a signature field, an initial field, a date signed field, name, email company, text box, checkbox, all those fields are right here. So you can easily add those to the document. In the middle here is a preview of the document with all the information in it. And if you scroll all the way down, it'll show the signature fields. So I'm gonna keep scrolling. So you can see here, it has a signature field, a yellow for Tony, blue for Pepper, and I scroll down here, and purple for myself. On the right-hand side, we have thumbnails. So you can Click on each one of the documents and it will show thumbnails of each one of the pages of the document. Just in that way, if you need to click through to a specific page quickly, you can. And you'll see here on this last page, it has these tabs, one for each color. And that is to let you know that on this page, there are required signature fields on this page. So it lets you know that you can easily click here and come here and double check. And you can go through each one of the thumbnails and double check which pages have any signature fields on them. So once you are familiar with the layout here, let's go through each one of the documents because we do need to double check and make sure that all the signature fields are correct, all the date sign fields are correct, and if there's any information that we missed, we can add a little text box here and there. So I'm good to go here with the listing agreement. We have all of our signature fields here. Now I mentioned to you earlier that for the since I'm signing last as a listing agent, I can make this listing agreement binding. And the way I can do that is if I select my name from the dropdown, so all these fields are purple, I can come over here and I can click text box, and then I can add a text box right here, and I'll just format that to fit. And you'll see when you have a standard field selected on the left-hand side, over here on the right-hand side, we have a toolbar that appears, and it gives us different options for this text box. This text box will show me that the recipient is assigned to myself, and then you'll see that it's a required field. And what that means is that when I'm going through this document to sign, it's going to stop at every single required field. So the system will not let me finish signing until I filled in something in this text box. So since I'm signing last, I could add the date and time of the signatures and to make this binding, because once everyone has signed it, DocuSign automatically sends these documents out for everyone's files. So what I can do is I have a text box, I can right mouse click on it, I can click copy, and then I can click paste, and now I have another text box. I can just add that right there. And then I want to add a date field, so I can just click date signed and add that right here. And that's going to automatically add today's date. And all three of these are required, so that's why they're dark purple. So we're good to go there. Now we'll scroll down to the seller's property disclosure. Now you'll see here, all of these fields are highlighted yellow, but they're light colored. So if I click on it, that lets me know that this field is not a required field. And the reason is these fields aren't required because not every field on the seller's property disclosure has to be filled in. There are going to be some places where the text fields aren't filled in. So for your clients, when they go to sign this, DocuSign will jump from required field to required field to required field, which 9 times out of 10 will be a signature field. You can do 2 things here to help your clients fill in the information. The first, remind them, hey, when you're signing the disclosures, please be sure to scroll back up to the top of the disclosure and start filling in the information. Well, there's also a quick workaround for that and a little trick that I learned. And for the seller's property disclosure, they need to fill in what year the main dwelling was constructed. So if you select that field and come over here and click on required field, now you can see that that is a dark yellow field. And this means that when Tony goes to sign, DocuSign is going to stop him on this field and he's going to have to fill in information here. So that will stop him in his tracks, and then it'll be much easier for him to go through and click on and fill in the information. Now you don't want to make all these fields required because not every field will need information. So I'll just continue to scroll through. You see everything here is yellow, so that's how I know it's assigned to Tony as seller 1. Keep scrolling. And then here we have Tony's signature, date signed, Pepper signature, date signed. Yes, Rudy, I think that is a cool trick that just to kind of help stop your clients from jumping all the way to the signature fields. So now we'll scroll down into the community association disclosure. And again, you'll see all these fields over here are yellow. And if I click on this one, it's not required. Now we can do the same thing the same trick for the community association disclosure. But what I would recommend is, because I don't know what type of community association HOA that they have. So I don't know if it's mandatory or voluntary or whatever. So I'm not going to touch any of these boxes up here. But what I can do is I can click come here to the name of association, click on this text box, and then click required field. And again, the system will stop Tony in his tracks, and he will have to fill in the name of the association, and it'll be much easier for him to then go through here and click the correct boxes. So we will scroll down, just make sure that everything here is all mapped yellow for Tony. All right, everything looks good to go. And then we have our seller 1 and seller 2 initial fields there. And now we'll get to our identity theft and wire fraud. And we'll want to double check the signature fields. Now something happens with these signature boxes, and I don't know why, but you just want to remove them so they're back up on the line. And they have their full name, which is nice because the system will pull in Tony's full name here and Pepper's name there. And I'll keep scrolling to the affiliated marketing. Now here we are missing signatures, so let's add signatures. So I'll come up to the top left-hand corner to the drop-down. I'm gonna select Tony's name. Everything is yellow. So I'll click on signature, and I'll come right here and add signature. And then I'll add date signed, and I'll just add that right there. And I'll do the same thing for Pepper. So we have blue, signature, add it right here, and then date signed. So now they'll have a signature field there. We'll scroll down to the purchase and sale. And we'll just double check everything here. Make sure that we clicked all the right check boxes, filled in all the information. Should be good to go. There's our seller initials. Now let me scroll down to our sellers, the stipulations. All right, here we go. So before we get into stipulations, let's say you forgot to check the box for your financing contingency. Well, you can add a checkbox here. So what you want to do is you'll come up to your cell, to the top left-hand corner, and you'll want to select yourself from the drop-down. And you can come here and click on checkbox. And let's say we're going to be using the conventional loan exhibit. So I can come right here and add that checkbox. So just click on it. And then I can come over here to checkbox values and then click this checkbox. And we'll go ahead and check that for me. And then I'm going to select read only because I don't want anyone to be able to check or uncheck this box when signing. So now when everyone signs the field or signs this document, that checkbox will automatically be filled in. And now I need to add a text here for which, what exhibit letter this is. So I come over here to text, come right here, add a text box, format it, and we'll make this exhibit C. So to start typing C, but I don't want this to be a required field. So I'm gonna uncheck required and I'm gonna make this read only. And that way, this field will show up on the document every single time someone signs it. So that's a quick little edit if you miss something while you're filling in the document originally.
Well, Nick, can we take this a step further? What if at this point in the process, I discovered that I forgot to add the financing contingency into the envelope? What do I lose of all the things I've done already if I have to add it now?
So if you have to add the loan or the financing contingency to the envelope, what you would do is you'd click this go back button, and DocuSign will save all the work that you've done.
Okay.
And then you could go back and you can add that document into the envelope. Now, if you go back into documents and you make edits to any one of the documents that are in the envelope, when you go back into the envelope, all of the fields that you had added will will not be there anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, you can click here, click back. The system is constantly saving the edit, so everything should still be here because I'm not going to make any changes to the purchase and sale.
Good.
All right, so now that we've added our conventional loan exhibit, let's add some stipulations. So I mentioned to you earlier that we only have a limited space for that. So if you want to add more stipulations, one of the options is you can add a text box. because then you can format that text box to take up the entire space here. And then you can just start typing, adding more stipulations, more, lots more, even more, more. So I have so many stipulations here, it scrolls up and down. Well, unfortunately on a PDF, you can't scroll up and down. So what you'll do is if you have so many, you can select all of them, come over here to formatting, and you can change the font here to 7-point font, and it makes it smaller. Now, this is what I was telling you earlier. It's not going to make you a fan favorite for your closing attorney or co-op agent because the smaller font's going to be more difficult to read, but it will ensure that all of your stipulations, or most of them, can fit on this page. And then additionally here, I'm going to uncheck the required field, and I want to check read only because I want to make sure that each one of those stipulations and everything is on the document when everyone signs. So we're good to go here with our stipulations. And then we'll scroll down. We see that we have our signature fields for our seller 1 and seller 2. Now this is a document I'll be sharing with the co-op agent. So I want to hide my client's contact information. And the easiest way to do that is to come over here to the pen icon on the far left. It's called Markup Tools. Select that and then select line. And I'll just come right here. And I'm going to add a line over the email address. Just drag that out all the way over to cover it up. And then we'll come over here to the menu and we can click color. And I'm going to change this to black. And then thickness, I'm going to change this all the way up to 10. And I'll just position that right here to hide his contact email address. And again, I can just right mouse click, copy, right mouse click, paste. And then I can drag that down here and cover up seller 2's email address. And I can just drag it so it's a little bit longer. And there we go. So that's how I would recommend for the time being, hiding your client's contact information.
Nick,
Yes.
if you wanted to, going back to the stipulations, add another page, like where and how would you do that?
So if you wanted to add another page, you'd want to check this box and then you'd have to go back into the room or into the documents tab.
Mm-hmm.
Add that document into the room, fill in the stipulations in the documents tab, and then come back into the envelope and then add that document to the envelope.
Okay.
So it would just be like adding any other document to the transaction.
Okay. How would it format though? Would it be after the, would it populate right after the steps, or would it be like at the end of the document?
Well, you could order the document in the envelope, so that way the additional stipulations page came right after the purchase and sale agreement, but they are two separate documents.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep. So scrolling down here, we have our signature information. We've hidden our client's contact information. Double check here to make sure all of my information is good and I have my signature there. So now we've gone through all the documents for signature. They should be good to go. Before we send them, I want to do a quick recipient preview. So I can click here on recipient preview, and it's going to show me what it's like for each one of my clients to sign. So I can come and I can select their name up here from the top left-hand corner. And then click start. And it's going to show me exactly what this is like for my client. So you can see here, it stops at this: what year is the main dwelling constructed? You fill it in, and then you can see how much easier it is to then go through here and fill in or click these boxes. So you get an idea. So this is just going to show you what it's like for your clients to sign. You can look at what it's like for them to sign on a desktop, on a tablet, or a mobile device. Now, if they're out at dinner or they're out and about and they need to sign something, they can do it, but it's going to be really difficult for them to read. So let them know, yeah, you guys can sign on your phone, no worries, especially if you're in a multiple offer situation, you need to get that in, they need to sign ASAP. Once you're done with the recipient preview, you can click the X in the top right-hand corner. And then we will click send. And now it's going to send these documents out for signature to everybody. So you can see here, We have our envelope. It says waiting for others. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my email so that way I can show all of the different accounts. Let me add KWFA Tech.
Question for you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm sorry. When the documents become, you said for us to sign last to make the documents binding. If that's not the case, it'll become binding when the last person signs. Is that how it works?
No, so if you're not the last signer, then you'd have to go back through and add a text field to then add in that binding time and date. So that's why if you're able to do that for the listing agreement and make yourself the last signer, it makes it a little bit easier and saves like one step, but you can always go back through and add that text field.
After everything's signed?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So you can see here, I'm in Tony's email address. You can see here, a message from me via DocuSign. Please DocuSign 1235 Main Street. I click on this, open it up. If I scroll down, you'll see that private message that says, "Hi, Tony, please remember to fill in all the info for the disclosures." Tony will click Review Documents, and it will load. It'll ask to agree to use electronic records and signatures, continue, and then click Start. It'll jump to that first required field, so I'll click Sign. It's going to ask Tony to confirm his signature, so I'll click Adopt and Sign. And it's going to jump to my next required field, which is the year the dwelling was constructed. I can type in 2000. And then while I'm here, it makes it so much easier for me to go in and start. You can just type in any information here, click. So you see, by adding that required field, it made it so much easier for Tony to fill in all this information, because most times when I hear back that, oh, my seller didn't fill in the information, well, it's probably just because he or she didn't realize he had to. So come over here, and you get the idea of just how easy it is to fill this in. So I'm going to click Next just to go to the next required field. So to sign it, and again, now I'm at the community association, and I can click on I can just start typing in here, HOA name. And I'll scroll up and I'm like, oh, you know what? This is a mandatory homeowners association, and it's $1,000 paid in 2 installments. Person's name. You can just tab through it. HOA management company 404 123 1234. So you can see how easy it is just to go through here. I'm just going to breeze through this for time since I'm running a little over. We have amenities, we have swim, tennis, clubhouse, playground, common area maintenance, and then click initial, sign, initial. I'm going to scroll up because I want to show you, see how these additional stipulations are here, and they're much smaller font. That way everyone can see them, and I'll click sign. And now, once your client is finished signing, they'll see the finish button up here at the top right-hand corner, or all the way at the bottom. They'll need to click the finish button. It's going to ask them if they want to create an account. They don't need to do that, so they can click no thanks. And then you need to make sure that your clients get to the You're All Done page. That's how you're going to know that they are all good to go with signing. Because since we have set up a signing order, if they don't get to the You're All Done page, then the documents won't go to the next signer for review and signature. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to open up Pepper's email, which is just my personal. And you'll see here at the top we have please DocuSign. And I'll scroll down here and you'll see there was no private message here. So it just says, Tony and Pepper, please review and sign the documents. Pepper clicks review. Agrees to use electronic signatures. Continue. Start. sign, confirm signature. Now you see it jumped all the way to the bottom of the seller's property disclosure, but I want to show you that because Tony signed first and then Pepper signed second, all of the information that Tony filled in here shows up. So this gives seller 2 the opportunity to review that document to make sure that all the information is correct. So everything looks good to go here. Scroll back to the bottom, sign. Sign again at the bottom of the community association, our initial, sign disclosure, disclosure, initial, sign, and then now Pepper's all finished. Click finish. And she doesn't need to create an account, so click no thanks. And now Pepper has received the "You're all done" page, so we know Pepper is good to go. So I'm going to click X here, and now I'm going to go into my email address, and now it pops up and says, please DocuSign. And now it's my chance to review and sign. So I'll click Review Documents. I'll click Continue, Start, Sign, and see, I added those required text fields, so I'm able to fill in the information here. So I'm going to make this this binding at 12 p.m. PM on a date of 9/18. So now it's filled in. So this document will become binding. So I'm going to click Fill In. Now it's going to jump me to signature, and you can see here that the black lines are over on the purchase and sale agreement, so my client's information is protected. Click Sign, and now I'm finished. Click Finish. I don't need to log in, no thanks. And now I've received the "You're all done" message. So good to go. So if I come back here, let me come to Pepper's, or Tony's email. You click Inbox. If you give it a minute, you'll see that we have now received an email. It says completed, please DocuSign 1235 Main Street. And all of these documents are attached as PDFs. So you can scroll through these and look and see, okay, here is a copy of all of these documents. So this is the exclusive seller listing agreement. If I scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see here, the above agreement is hereby accepted at 12 p.m. on this date. So this document is binding. So they have a copy and notice of all of these documents. It just saves you one step of having to organize your documents and send them for your clients. So they have copies of everything. So now I'm going to go back into DocuSign because there's a few more things that we need to do, and I'm running over, so I apologize. So I'm going to click refresh here, and it'll show that this envelope has been completed. I'm going to come to the Documents tab, and if I scroll down here, you'll see now I now have copies of these documents with green check boxes on it that say signed. Those are the signed PDF copies of all of those documents. Now I want to put all of my listing agreement documents in my listing agreement folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click all the documents that are pertaining to my listing agreement. And then we have seller's property disclosure and wire fraud. I'm going to select all of them. And then I'm going to select Move. I'm going to select a destination, folder, and current room. Select listing agreement, click Move. And now I have all my listing agreement folder documents up here. And then here is my signed purchase and sale agreement. Now, if you are the buyer's agent and you're going to send an offer to the co-op agent, you're going to want to download it. To download a document, you can select it and you come up here and you click the download button. But if you're like me, I like to include all of my documents as one large document to send for signature or to send over to the co-op agent. So you can select all the documents that you might want to combine into a single PDF. So I'm going to select all of my signed documents for my listing agreement. Because what I'll do is I'll combine these into one document to share with my clients. Then you come up here, roll your mouse over the icons in the taskbar until you get to combine. Click on combine, and now I can give this a document or a name. So 1235 Main Street binding listing agreement. So you give it a new name, And then you can organize the order of the documents that you want. So I want to start with the seller's listing agreement. So I click on it and drag it into the position that I want, and then seller's property disclosure, community association disclosure, and then affiliated marketing and wire fraud, and click save. It's now going to add that document. And like I said before, everything is going to default into the room docs folder. So here it is in the room docs folder. I'll just grab that and move that into my listing agreement folder. And here we go. And now all of those documents are in a single PDF, 20 pages long. Let's say on the flip side, you receive a PDF from a co-op agent that has multiple documents in it, and you want to break it up into individual documents, because we can't attach one single document to command for compliance review. What you can do is you can come up here to document actions, click on that, and scroll down to split. So you can click split here. It's going to load a quick little little thumbnail preview of each one of the pages. So if you roll your mouse over it, you can see it kind of magnifies what each document is. So when you want to create a new document, you come over here and you can name this exclusive listing agreement, and then we'll select pages 1 through 8. And it's going to highlight pages 1 through 8, so I can double check, perfect, that's all the documents there. Then I come over here, document 2, seller's property disclosure. So this will be pages 9 through 15. Add document, we'll make this community association disclosure. And this is going to be 16, 17, and 18. 16 through 18. So you can see that's how easy it is. Now, let's say I don't need to worry about these last two. So once you're done here, you can click save in the top right-hand corner. The room will refresh. And if you scroll down to your room docs folder, you'll see we have our new CAD, ELA, and SPD here. And it broke that up into individual documents. So that's how you can take a document, a large document from a co-op agent, and break it up into individual documents before you send for signature or upload for compliance. So now that we have all of our documents signed, we're ready to go in DocuSign. Now we go back into Command, because now we need to upload these documents for Lynn and Alita to review. So I'm going to go into Command. I'm going to come here back into the Documents tab. And now I'm going to add the document. So there's a couple ways that you can do this. You can do it one by one. So I can come here to the listing agreement and click Add a File. Then I'll select DocuSign as the source of my files. And I've created a folder here for my listing agreement. So I can click Select Folder, Listing Agreement. And I'll scroll through here and I'll look for my exclusive seller listing agreement signed. It's going to show every single document that's in the room in that folder. So be very careful to select the signed version. So I'll click that and click Assign. And now it has uploaded that document directly into Command from DocuSign. Now, when you're doing this, you're going to have a lot of documents. So you can come up here and you can select Attach Multiple Files. So I can come right here. I can select DocuSign as my source of my files. And I come down and I'll just come to a Community Association Disclosure. And I'll scroll down until I find my Community Association Disclosure signed. Add that. My Seller's Property Disclosure. So just scroll down till we find that. Seller's Property Disclosure signed. Lead-based paint we don't need. Rawls Group Affiliated Marketing. So we'll scroll down until we get to Affiliated Marketing Disclosure signed. And then Rawls Group Wire Fraud Prevention Notice signed. And then click Attach, and we'll add all of those documents right here.
Does that show all the documents from all folders, or can I select one specific folder from the room?
So if you are attaching multiple files, it'll show all the documents. Now it does organize them. So if, I'll show you right here. So let's pretend I was going to add a legal description. You can see here it says root folder, which is going to be that room docs folder. And then if you scroll down, it shows my listing agreement folder. So it helps, it does organize them so it's a little bit easier to find.
Thank you.
And then if you want to add a document that's not listed here, you can click Add Item. a document name. I'll just do legal description. Select document type. Now, it doesn't really matter exactly what this is. It's not going to affect anything. I'll just add addendum. I can click source of documents, DocuSign. And again, it's going to show me all of these documents. And then let me just come over here and I will add my egg flyer for Ignite and click save. And now it's going to upload that folder or the document. Here it is at the bottom, legal description. Once you've added all of your documents into Command and you need to submit them for compliance review, you come over here and click Submit to MC, and that will submit to Lynn and Alita for review. So that is the DocuSign training for this morning. What questions do you have? What can I show you again? What do you need additional information on?
I think you mentioned at some point that some fields are connected and some fields are not connected, and there's a way to distinguish.
Well, there isn't really a way to distinguish if they're mapped to the details tab or not, other than if you input that information on the details tab and it automatically shows up on the document, then you know that it's mapped. But you always want to be mindful when you're filling in a piece of information that's a high level piece of information, kind of, at like the property level or the client level, that those will more than likely be mapped. And those will be the ones that would be affected if you change or delete that information.
Okay. I thought at some point you mentioned if you hover over it, there's some, there's something you see that will tell you whether it's mapped or not.
Oh, if you hover over it, yes, it'll tell you the name of the field and what the input information is, but it will not tell you if it's mapped.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, well, as you guys are playing around in DocuSign and going through your transaction, always feel free to reach out to me. You can call me, text me, email me. I'm always here to help. And I know it's going to take a little bit. There's definitely a learning curve with DocuSign. It's not as intuitive as .loop, but I think it is really great for protecting us and our clients to make sure that everyone is signing the documents correctly. So please let me know how I can help. Have a great rest of your Friday and a great weekend, and I will talk with you soon.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.